Okay, I want you to picture a scenario. It's one that almost anyone in the nonprofit world has faced. And honestly, it's the stuff of nightmares.
I think I know where this is going.
You have this incredible vision, right? A new community center, a scholarship fund, something that you know could change lives. You are just buzzing with excitement.
Yeah, that's the honeymoon phase. Everything's possible. Nothing costs
Yes.
anything yet.
Exactly. And then you hit the wall, concrete reality, you have to actually pay for this thing. And that passion, it just turns into this pit in your stomach.
Mm. Because now you have to do the one thing nobody wants to do.
You have to ask for money.
To universal anxiety. It really doesn't matter if you're running some massive international NGO or just a local soup kitchen. For most people, fundraising is a dirty word.
Right. It feels like begging or like this awkward apology for not being rich enough to just do it yourself.
It's that feeling of walking in with your hat in your hand, sort of shrinking down and saying, I'm so sorry to bother you, but it's just heavy.
But today, we're going to try and completely dismantle that feeling. We're doing a deep dive into a text that makes a massive, counterintuitive claim. What if asking for money isn't a burden? What if it's actually a spiritual kindness?
It's a bold reframing. We're looking at A Spirituality of Fundraising by the theologian Henri Nouwen. It's a really short text, more of a booklet, actually, but it totally flips the script.
And just a quick note for everyone listening, if you want to really get into this nonprofit world, you can find a lot more deep dives like this one over at nonprofit.deepdive.com.
Absolutely. And if this stuff resonates with you today, and I think it will, you don't just have to take our word for it.
You can actually get your own copy of the booklet we're reviewing. Just go to the Henri Nouwen Society at henrinouwen.org. It's one of those you'll want to keep on your desk, probably.
For sure. So the mission for this deep dive is pretty simple. We want to change how you feel when you ask for support. Nouwen says fundraising isn't just about the bills. He puts it right up there with preaching or visiting the sick. He says it is, in itself, a ministry.
See, that's the word that stops me. Ministry. That's a heavy, sacred word to attach to asking someone for a check. It feels like a stretch.
Well, usually we think ministry is what happens after the check clears.
Exactly. So how do we get from begging to ministry?
It starts by looking at why we feel like beggars in the first place. Nouwen points out this common trap. We usually only fundraise in a crisis.
Oh, yeah. The roof is leaking. The grant didn't come through.
Right. So the whole vibe of the ask becomes, please help us out. We're sinking.
It's a position of weakness. You're saying, I have a problem and I need your money to fix it for me. It's desperate.
Precisely. And that creates a dynamic of dependency. But Nouwen argues that real fundraising is about proclaiming a vision. It's inviting people to join a mission that's bigger than both of you.
Okay.
He has this really simple equation that I think changes everything. Vision equals needs plus resources.
Walk me through that, because usually we just focus on the needs part.
We do. We focus entirely on the deficit. We need X amount of dollars. But Nouwen says if you have a vision, a mission you truly believe in, you already have the first part. You have the vision. That's a huge asset.
And the donor has the resources.
The donor has the resources. So when you bring those together, the vision becomes reality.
So it's not me taking from you. It's us combining forces. My vision, your resources to make it happen.
Yes. Nouwen writes, and this is a quote, fundraising is precisely the opposite of begging. When you ask, you are declaring you have something amazing, something exciting, and you're offering the donor a chance to invest in it.
You're giving them an opportunity.
You're inviting them into something good.
There's a story in the text that shows this posture really well, and I love it because it just clashes with how I picture charity. He talks about visiting a fundraiser in Texas.
Right, and when you picture a nonprofit office, you think, cramped space, folding chairs.
Totally. The scrappy look. We think it proves we're frugal.
We wear poverty like a badge of honor. But this guy's office in Texas was the opposite. It was beautiful, expensive art, nice furniture, a sense of abundance.
And Nouwen was shocked by this, wasn't he? He kind of challenged the guy. He was like, how do you ask for money in here? Won't people think you're wasting it?
And the response is just legendary. The fundraiser says his office is part of his approach. It communicates that he knows how to handle resources well, that he can make money grow.
So if I look like I was starving, why would they trust me with their investment?
That's it. It's a risky take, though. I can hear people thinking, so I should go buy a mahogany desk with my grant money.
Right.
No, Nouwen isn't saying that. It's a metaphor for your internal posture, the standing up analogy. That fundraiser wasn't bowing down. He wasn't apologizing.
He believed he had something valuable to offer, the mission.
And if you truly believe your mission is valuable, you ask with confidence. You ask standing up.
Okay, so intellectually, I get the shift. I have something of value, but let's be real. Money is still. It's weird. It's awkward. The book makes this really provocative claim that money is a bigger taboo than sex or religion.
It's fascinating, right? But think about your own life. You might tell a friend about your religious doubts or your relationship troubles.
Sure.
But do you know what your best friend earns? Do you know what your parents have in their savings?
Oof. No. Not a clue. My parents, we are never, ever talk about it.
Most of us don't. It's the last secret. And Nouwen asks these really uncomfortable questions like, does a low income make us feel bad? Does wealth make us feel good?
It cuts right to our identity. If I have less, I feel like I am less.
And that is exactly why asking is so scary. It triggers our security base. He draws on this biblical idea that you can't serve both God and mammon.
Mammon. That's an old school word.
It is, but the idea is timeless. Mammon isn't just money, it's the power that money has over us. The idea that if I have enough in the bank, I'm safe.
So if I'm a fundraiser and I'm scared to ask, it's because my security is tied to them saying yes.
Exactly. You have to do an internal inventory. If your self-worth is tied to your organization's bank account, you can't ask freely. You're too attached. You're asking for your own survival.
Because if they say no, it feels like they're rejecting me, that I'm not worth supporting.
Yes. But if your security is rooted in the mission itself, then you're free. The money is just a tool. It's not who you are. A no isn't a rejection of your soul.
It's just a logistical mismatch.
Right. Nouwen uses the word conversion here for both the asker and the giver.
Yeah, it's a dual transformation.
The asker has to convert from fear to freedom, and the giver has to convert from possessing their money to stewarding it. You're loosening the grip that mammon has on both of you.
Speaking of relating to people, there's another mental block he tackles that made me squirm a little, our attitude toward the rich.
This is where it gets really convicting. Because in nonprofit circles, there's often this hidden prejudice. We think wealthy people are just lucky or maybe a bit greedy. We think they don't have real problems.
Right, they have it easy. Or we see them as a target, a whale. We need to land, we objectify them.
And that dehumanizes them. Nouwen argues the rich are often poor in other ways. He talks about the poverty of loneliness, the fear of being used. He quotes someone saying, "The only thing people see in me is money."
Wow. Imagine walking into every room and just feeling like everyone is calculating what they can get from you. That's a profound kind of isolation.
It is. Which brings me to my favorite story in the whole text, the banker and Nouwen's assistant.
Oh.
So Nouwen is away, and this wealthy banker calls and says, "I want to help Henri financially."
Now, pause. In 99% of nonprofits, the response to that is, great, here's the routing number.
Right. Don't hang up.
Yeah.
Send it now. Take the money and run. But the assistant doesn't do that. She realizes this guy is calling for something more.
So what does she do?
She invites him to dinner. Just dinner. No pitch deck, no PowerPoint.
And they just keep having dinner.
Weekly. They build a real friendship.
Yeah.
And eventually, the banker admits something. He says, "I know you don't know a thing about money." Which was true.
But then he drops the hammer. He says, I need something that I think you have.
That's the pivot. The banker didn't just need a tax write-off. He needed connection. He needed the community that Nouwen's group had. The money became secondary.
That completely flips the power dynamic. We think the donor has all the power because they have the money.
But Nouwen is saying, we have something they need. We minister to the donor. We're offering them friendship, community, a chance to be part of something bigger.
We have to love them for who they are, not what they have.
Because if you view a donor as a wallet, they will feel it, and they will resent it.
But if you view them as a person looking for meaning, it's not a transaction, it's a relationship.
And that leads to this idea of the generosity loop. There's another story in the preface where Nouwen is at a conference and runs into a young man trying to get home to France.
A classic Nouwen moment. He's busy, he's stressed, but he stops.
He stops, he listens, he drives the young man, and he ends up giving him $200, a lot of money for him, to help him get home.
He gives away resources he probably needed, but then comes the twist.
The Christ. He gets back to the conference center, and the booksellers hand him an envelope. It's a thank you note and a check for exactly $200.
Come on, that sounds like a movie script.
It feels magical, but Nouwen says there's a principle. Generosity rooted in relatedness begets generosity. Because he lived with an open hand, He experienced the world as generous.
So if you, as a fundraiser, are stingy and fearful, you're going to attract that same energy.
In a way, yes. If you clutch your resources, you signal scarcity. But if you focus on what Nouwen calls new communion, the barriers break down. Fundraising becomes a gathering of people around a shared mission.
The book actually says community is one of the greatest gifts a nonprofit has to offer. It says money is the least interesting part of the exchange.
I love that line. Money is the least interesting part. Think about how much time boards spend stressing about money. But the donor is often looking for the belonging. They want to be part of the us.
Okay, I am with you on the philosophy. I have the mindset shift, but let's get practical. I have a meeting tomorrow. My palms are sweating.
Yeah.
How do I actually stop the anxiety?
Nouwen offers two very specific tools, prayer and gratitude.
And I'm guessing he doesn't just mean praying, please God, make them write a big check.
No, that's just begging with extra steps. Prayer here is about reorienting yourself.
Yeah.
When you pray for the donor, you stop seeing them as a target. You start seeing them as a human being.
It humanizes the whole process.
It does. It reminds you that you both stand on the same ground.
Yeah.
And then there's gratitude. And this is the tricky part. You have to be grateful before you get the result.
Wait, grateful before they even say yes. That sounds hard.
It's incredibly hard, but it's essential. Because if your gratitude depends on the check, it's just manipulation. But if you are grateful for the partnership, for the chance to share the vision,
Then you're safe. If they say yes, wonderful. We're partners.
if they say no,
Then you're grateful for the clarity.
exactly. Grateful for the clarity. Maybe their resources are needed somewhere else. It prevents burnout. It prevents resentment. It
Yeah.
keeps the ask clean.
So let's bring this all together. We've gone from fundraising as begging to fundraising as proclaiming a vision.
From a transaction where we take to a relationship where we give.
From fear about our own security to freedom in the mission.
And ultimately realizing that fundraising isn't a distraction from the work. It is the work. It is ministry.
It's a total paradigm shift. And
Yeah.
honestly, it makes me want to go out and invite people into something cool, not hide under my desk.
That's the spirit. The vision you have matters. Don't apologize for it.
So here's a provocative thought for you to chew on today. We talked about how the wealthy are often lonely, how they need to be needed. So if you truly believed that asking someone for money was doing them a spiritual favor, giving them an outlet for their need to be generous, who is the first person you would call today?
That changes the contact list, doesn't it? It's not about who has the most, but who needs the invitation the most.
It really does. Thank you for listening to this deep dive. And again, if you want to explore more topics like this, check out nonprofitdeepdive.com.
And please, do yourself a favor and pick up the actual booklet, A Spirituality of Fundraising. You can find it at the Henri Nouwen Society at henrinouwen.org. It's a resource you'll want to have.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Go out there and proclaim your vision. We'll see you next time.